Hello and welcome to the Digital Insight, the technology and supply chain podcast that delivers valuable C-level perspective into the core issues surrounding business transformation and digital disruption. Each episode will bring you the most inspiring executive insights from those leading transformation strategies within the world's biggest and best-known companies. The Digital Insight. Disrupt, transform, evolve.
Welcome to the Digital Insight, the official podcast series for CPO Strategy and Interface magazines. This week, we're privileged to welcome Phil Jordan, Group CIO of Sainsbury's. Experienced in heading up digital transformations at some of the largest telecom companies in the world, Phil has now switched his attention to a British retail institution. Phil is spearheading Sainsbury's Tech, a brand new technology division delivering integrated tech solutions across all of Sainsbury's brands and channels, including, as well as the supermarket business, Argos, Nectar, TU Clothing, Sainsbury's Bank, and Habitat. Phil Jordan, welcome to the Digital Insight.
I'm Phil Jordan, so I'm Group CIO here at Sainsbury's. I have responsibility for technology across all the brands. Sainsbury's is a big food business, people know us for our supermarkets, but also we have Argos in our business, so big general merchandise, second biggest general merchandise business in the country. We also have a retail bank as well, and Nectar, of course. So across those businesses, I'm responsible for technology. I was working 20 years in telecoms, having spent time in Vodafone and Telefonica, and I was working out of the country. So I'd taken my family to Spain. I think we were ready to come back, kids of a certain age, back into school and stuff. So I was sort of ready to come back to the UK, and I'd made a decision, I think, to sort of step away from telco and the telecom sector just to have a different challenge. And I've always been fascinated by retail. I think it's really where technology and people really meet. So the opportunity to step into retail really came out because Sainsbury's asked if I was interested in coming here. And I have to say, I sort of almost backed my way into it, really. I hadn't really thought about joining a grocery business or a supermarket business when I was in telecoms. But the more I met the people, the more I met and understood the sort of journey of the business, and it had the fact that it has multiple brands and multiple businesses. I got sort of slightly interested and intrigued by this as a business, and then I think the brand speaks for itself and the people are great. So, it's kind of almost, I don't think I really intended to be here. I was sort of looking to come back to the UK. Wanted to get into retail, and Sainsbury's were kind enough to give me the opportunity. Telecoms companies like O2 and Vodafone are retail businesses as well. So I'd had some indication and some exposure to retail, but bringing in a sort of different perspective to this business, and I guess a more technology-driven perspective, a more data-driven, a more digital-driven perspective to retail has been something I've been able to do, I think. But I've been amazed at how similar the businesses are in a strange, sort of perverse way. Well, I think they're both service industries to an extent, but I suppose one of the obvious differences is margin. I mean, telecoms businesses in Telefonica were 24 to 48% margin, depending on the country you operate in. Our core supermarket business is a 2% margin business. So you have to sell a lot of produce and a lot of groceries, and you're making 2% margin. So I suppose that's a big difference. The culture of a business that is 40% margin to one that's 2%, is a difference. I think that there are other major differences, though. I think retailers have a very strong view of customer. I think telecoms companies struggle a little bit because typically telecoms companies are B2B businesses, B2C businesses, they're wholesalers, and therefore customers are sort of abstract concept at time in a telco. And quite often people in telecoms companies don't use the product because you all get given a company mobile. So all of a sudden there's this disconnect, I think, between people's perception of customer and visibility of a customer in a telco. Well, in a retailer, that's not true. 26 million a week come through the store. We open our doors and 26 million people shop with us. And they choose every single day whether they want to shop with Sainsbury's or not. So the focus on customer and how important customer is in every decision, I think that's a massive difference between retailers, or certainly Sainsbury's and telecoms companies. And I love that. I love the fact that everything we do is anchored around what would our customers think of it. Both businesses are, have been around, relatively speaking, different lengths of time, but are sort of incumbent businesses, both being heavily disrupted by new entrants to the market. Who have, in some cases, a different business model and a business model that's born out of sort of digital platform business. And then both businesses, both old and new businesses for me, have assets that are big barriers to entry. So in telco, it's the network. It's very hard if you don't own a network to have radio spectrum licenses and to build a mobile or a fixed line network. It's very hard in retailer to open up 1,200, 1,400 stores around the UK. So these assets that represent real barriers to entry and are probably the number one sort of assets the company have, but are slowly becoming less and less sources of differentiation. There was a time when people chose a network in terms of a mobile experience. People don't tend to do that. They tend to choose a handset and choose apps and services across it. And that's, I think, playing through into retail as well. There was a time, people still choose, people tend to shop where it's convenient for them, where it's local. But of course, we're seeing the movement away from physical shopping to online shopping, and all of a sudden, convenience and speed takes over anything else. So the store network and the physical radio network becoming assets and barriers to entry, but not sources of differentiation. Well, I guess I came in and we were very much in the infancy of what has now become quite public as our failed attempt to acquire Asda. So I spent a long time, focusing on how we would integrate a business like that into our business and spending time with Walmart and looking at ways to do that. Of course, the situation has evolved now to the point that the CMA has blocked that acquisition. But I guess my goal and my role is still the same, and that's to take these great businesses that operate, broadly differently and in silos in our group, but form them into a multi-brand, multi-channel shopping experience. And what we really want is customers to never see and feel the difference between Argos and Sainsbury's and Nectar, and provide a shopping experience that's very seamless, very personalised, uses the data that we share with a customer about what they want, where they like to shop, what's important to them, and we're able to make their lives easier by helping them shop all our businesses in a really seamless and contextual way. So bringing the technology functions together, bringing the systems together, bringing the data together, and turning that back and making that useful for customers is really at the heart of my role. The brands are really important. Yeah, the individual brands are really important, but we genuinely believe that the brands are important, but they belong to the same family and the same ecosystem. And and when you look at the way people shop and the way different missions they have, whether they're shopping for food or for general merchandise, there are many life events and many things that join it together. We know pet owners, so why can't we be really useful in helping you shop pet food, pet accessories, pet insurance? All these examples are out there where to help people live their lives easier, it wouldn't be useful if somebody can help you join some of those separate missions together and help you shop. And of course, it's great for us. We want people shopping inside our ecosystem, and this is where Nectar is so important to us. Nectar is the biggest loyalty program in the UK. It enables us to reward customers for shopping with us, and then encourage them to continue shopping with us and spending their Nectar loyalty points, inside our ecosystem. So, we really believe in that as being useful for customers, making it personalised, making it relevant for them. It helps us by obviously shopping within our ecosystem. Now, none of that comes to life without data being integrated, systems being integrated, processes being integrated, and that's really my goal. Well, Sainsbury's Tech is the organisational manifestation of what I've just described. So, I've been here 15, 16 months now, and inherited very brand-driven businesses. Technology very much aligned to a brand, but our strategy is multi-brand, multi-channel. And I think one of the things we realised quite quickly is if we don't bring technology together and lead the business in a structural integration, so we can build capability that can service customers across our whole ecosystem, then we weren't going to get there unless we really took technology away from the brands, formed it into something new, and repurposed it and gave us as technologists the challenge of really integrating the business. So Sainsbury's Tech is that organisation. We've taken technology out of Argos, we've taken the IT team out of Sainsbury's, we've taken the IT team out of Nectar, and we've formed it together into one unit. And basically what we've done is we've sort of aligned away from brands, we've aligned to capability. So rather than everybody lines up behind one of the brands, we now have digital, which is everything we do that's customer facing, every piece of technology that our customers can touch, whether that's an in-store self-checkout or a web and app, or the e-commerce channel for both businesses, put all that together and make that as as seamless and as simplified and as elegant for customers as possible, irrespective of the brand. It's retail, so this is more what our colleagues touch that makes us a retailer. That's sort of commercial, supply chain, logistics, and retail itself. Bring all that together and start to bring our capabilities, general merchandise, clothing and food capabilities, bring them together and have a single set of capabilities for multiple brands. And obviously then the back office where it makes no sense to be different, so finance and HR and property, so an enterprise unit that does that. So 3 CTOs, all with capability focus rather than brand. And that's at the heart of Sainsbury's Tech, the pivot we've made. We've brought operations together, of course. We don't want to manage our services and operations in different brands. We want to bring that together. And then I have an information security organisation and a data organisation, and then an organisation that helps me manage. So I suppose the biggest thing about Sainsbury's Tech is it's a pivot away from brand to capability. Sainsbury's is an amazing business. It's a 150-year-old this year. It's a business that's had a history of innovation, back from whether it's how the business started, which was creating healthy butter for people 150 years ago, right the way through the first business to do self-checkout, the first business to do mobile scan and pay in the last few weeks. So despite the age, and sometimes people view older businesses as being less innovative, I disagree. I think if a business is going to survive 150 years, something like 26 prime ministers, something like 8 kings and queens, if a business is going to survive that length of time, you have to be innovative. So I think the combination of retail, the brand, and being the business that's innovative, this is an amazing place to be for a technologist. And we're lucky that we have many brands to work on: Argos, Sainsbury's, Nectar, Sainsbury's Bank, etc. I think when you look at the data we have, I believe we have probably the most exciting data set in the country. You think about what you know about a customer through a loyalty app which is an alliance business, so it's not just Sainsbury's in Nectar, but what we know about our own customers through loyalty, what we know about our own customers from their shopping behaviour, what we know about customers through looking through the Argos lens, and actually what we know about customers through looking at our banking interaction. When you piece that all together, and then look at the scale of 27 million customers, I think it's a really interesting view of the way the UK, lives its life, right? And now we're hugely respectful of that responsibility, right? So we take, we genuinely believe that customers having their trust in us is paramount to our brand. So we don't sort of overlook the enormity and the privileged place we have in terms of understanding that about customers. But equally, we know that if we can turn that around and make that data really useful for customers in living their lives, whether that's joining up shopping missions or, starting to anticipate need so that you can make offers when they're useful. I mean, we know that there's value for customers in that, and there's obviously value for us as well. But as you say, pulling that data out, it's a huge data set, making some sense of it, connecting it in some way, and then applying all sorts of data science techniques to it is critical. And we are actively exploiting, I think, all types of data science, whether that's machine learning or just algorithms or other types of data science. And a good examples would be, for example, we've recently. I like this example because it's if you can apply data science in this example, you can apply data science in any, right? So just imagine for a second that what happens at the back of our stores. So we pride ourselves on having the best industry availability of products in a Sainsbury's store. So you can imagine we're constantly sending stock to a store. So at the back of the store, lorries are constantly rolling. Off the lorry comes big rollers of products that are stacked in a depot that the store staff have to replenish in the store. So what they do is they obviously break that roller down. Roller is a big cage. And then they'll take it to the store and put it on the shelves. What we realised through our data science organisation is we have store-specific planograms, so a digital map of the store, and we know digitally what's in that roller. If we could put the two together and run a closed machine learning loop, we could always tell the store where in the store is the most efficient place to take the products. So you break the roller in 3, take this bit to this place, this bit to this place, and what happens is you cut the walking time for a store staff by half. So that's a machine learning algorithm, and I'm saying if you can apply it to breaking a cage full of product and walking it around the shop, then the opportunities in the business are endless. So that's one example. Another example would be we schedule, this is not a machine learning one, but a data science one. We schedule groceries online deliveries all over the country on a daily basis. So we have thousands of people shopping with us online, and we deliver that to you on a given allocated time. So you can imagine somewhere deep in the basement of Sainsbury's, there's somebody who's scheduling these vans and these drivers. And believe me, that a year ago, that was the biggest Excel spreadsheet in history. I think it was sort of 6 weeks to schedule, for 6 weeks. And again, what was very obvious is you can automate that through data science. And what we've done is we've just built algorithms that automate that scheduling. And what happens is it schedules now in a matter of minutes. It's more accurate. It's easier to use. And again, you've just transformed and revolutionised an aspect of our business. So right the way through, the recommendations we make to customers, how we get stock into stores, how we forecast stock, how we organise the logistics of the business, data science, great data, clean data in one place, and then the application of machine learning and data science. It's the key. It's the key to unlocking future efficiency and the key to unlocking great experiences. I'm a big believer that actually the digital revolution is gone. The businesses, if you haven't already transformed to be digital, you're not going to survive much longer. You see this all the time in retail, don't you? Businesses that weren't fast enough to make that shift away from sort of bricks to clicks, and don't have enough visits. Unfortunately, we're seeing those businesses go under at a rate of knots. So now it's about, assuming you've got digital capability, it's all about data. It's all about how quickly can you turn insight into action, how quickly can you adapt customer experience based on personalization. And that's why I think we've put so much emphasis on data in this business. So I think the biggest challenge is change, and change is largely people based. We're not immune to that. We have 130,000 colleagues, and the vast majority of them work in store and do an amazing job, every day in front of customers, delivering, amazing service. And actually, irrespective of everything we've talked about, I think we still believe that it's when you put great technology in the hands of great people is that the magic happens. So in stores, what we've been trying to do is remove a lot of the paper and make everything app-based and also digitize the sort of store management experience, because we want our store managers and our store colleagues to spend their time with customers. That's really what we want. So wherever we can reduce their time taken to sort of set the store up and run the store, so they can really emphasize on spending time with customers. But that's a huge change, so taking store colleagues on a journey of digitization is a massive transformation. Taking store support colleagues on here in the head office is another massive transformation. So we're not immune to that. It's tough to get, it's tough to drive change really effectively. But again, I think that's what people like me, certainly I think I was hired to help do, which was to initiate this change, this digitization and data change in the business. And the technology, I think, is the relatively easy part, I have to say. I think getting the business to adapt and adopt, particularly now we're bringing the brands together, so, not only are you bringing, different ways of working and different, brands who operate slightly differently into a common capability, you have all the challenges of the people agenda as well. People feel very wedded to brands, and all of a sudden you start driving a structural change like Sainsbury's Tech. It's tough for people. But equally, I think, when you explain it, I think people get it really quickly. We've had no questions from our colleagues about why are we doing this. Lots of questions about what and how and in what order, but the premise of we want to become a single business with multiple brands is very well understood after a few weeks, which is great. We created Sainsbury's Tech really trying to establish it as something new. I think, again, it's partly the cultural challenge that we face is that, we have two businesses, Argos and Sainsbury's, who, are very different and have felt very different and have operated differently, but they're the same business now. And I think what we decided to do was, rather than make anybody feel that we were sort of merging or trying to sort of assimilate one into the other, I think it was really important that we created something different, something new. So we stood up Sainsbury's Tech with a sort of as a new entity, and create the feeling that we're both businesses are moving to it. And in doing so, obviously, it's enabled me to build a new leadership team that's representative of both businesses. So, Our digital CTO is Tom Tang, and Tom was the Argos CIO. Tom's a ex-Amazon, ex-Sears, real techie, a real technology leader, has a real strong technology vision, comes from a very digital background, and obviously Argos being a very digital business. So Tom leads our digital engineering group as digital CTO. The retail CTO is John Elliott. John came from the Sainsbury's side but was running food commercial. So basically we've asked John to really step up and look after the whole of retail. And John's has great retail experience, has worked in other supermarkets in a leadership, technology leadership role, has worked in the supply side as well. So John really is coming in and establishing himself as a great leader in terms of retail capability. And then on the enterprise side, sort of the back office side, but also all the infrastructure elements as well. That's Richard Newsom, and Richard was the CIO of Sainsbury's, and Richard is very seasoned, very experienced, knows the business really well. So, and he's taken the sort of corporate end and corporate IT part, plus all our internal IT. So the three CTOs, super important. They work well together. Very different by nature. They're very different functions, but their ability to come together and form a strategic architectural view of the business is critical. And then the rest of the team is made up of a combined operations function. So we've taken everything that's about service operations and put it under Martin Taylor, who used to run that for Argos. I have two functions that remain unchanged from the before. So I have a data organisation that's run by Helen Hunter. I have an information security organisation that's run by Munvaliji. And then we created one function that's new, that's called Technology Business Management, that effectively is the glue between all of them. So it helps me lead technology. So it looks after partners, looks after programs, looks after sort of community and capability, and that's led by Ant Crom. I think the first and imperative thing is we'll know we're successful when we've delivered everything we had to deliver this year in all the brands. So it's no excuse. Forming Sainsbury's Tech is not an excuse for any non-delivery at all. So delivering all the huge change agenda we have, delivering a great peak from a trading perspective, so that includes Black Friday through to Christmas, and then delivering all our financial targets for the year. So I'm not giving anybody an excuse not to deliver. We have to find a way to make this change happen and deliver at the same time. So that would be the number one. I increasingly would expect that to be because of Sainsbury's Tech rather than despite. So we will deliver because of Sainsbury's Tech increasingly through the year. So I suspect what will happen is we'll get better and better at understanding the implication of working in a multi-brand way. So number one. I suppose number two, we'll build a plan for next year that I think you'll start to see some of the benefit. You'll start to see optimization of our capital as we start to invest less in duplicate systems. So some optimization in the way we spend capital. I'm sure there's some optimization in the way in our operational costs as well as we bring things together. But probably more important than that, I think we'll start to see a vision emerge of, well, how do you start to really integrate these experiences across common platforms, whether that's in e-commerce or in commercial or in the back office. I think what we will do as technologists is start to lay out the plan for, how do you really start to encode and create this single business of multiple brands and move away from being multiple brands. So it's kind of like that, and I think let's deliver what we committed to. Let's do that increasingly because of Sainsbury's Tech, and then I think as we start to look at next year, I think the vision for where we're going will start to be really clear. And I'm a huge believer in IT complexity mirrors business complexity, right? So if you have two business owners for the same process, I guarantee you're going to have two sets of systems. So you have to face into that people, process, and technology change. So it's one owner, one process, and then one system's possible. So again, there's no silver bullet or easy way around that. You just have to do the hard work of structurally integrate your organisation, consider how you build a single process view of the business, and then when you've done that, you can enable it with great technology. And again, I think business has always had that challenge. Ever since I've been in technology, which is a long time, we've always been facing into this sort of technology transformation challenge. And certainly in my company, in Telefonica, that was what we spent a long time doing, was sort of re-enabling the business with new platforms that would enable it to transform. But the reality is, I think data again has really accelerated the need. If you want to have data available to drive insight into action, it can't be locked up in a vertical silo. It has to be democratized. And that's, I think, again, the businesses that are able to use data anywhere in the business. And a good example would be, when I was in telco, we always had tremendous information about networks. It was usually used to build networks. It wasn't necessarily used to transform customer experience. And I think those digital businesses, the ones that are lucky enough to have an integrated platform at the heart of it, well, they get to use data everywhere. And I think that's the difference between businesses that will be successful in the next 20 years, is those businesses that are able to use their data to improve all aspects of their business. And that only comes from process and system change.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Insight Podcast in association with theinterface.net and cpostrategy.com. The Digital Insight is brought to you by B2E Media Limited. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review, and don't forget to check out our podcast archive at www.b2e-media.com/podcast.